Portions of our programming are brought to you by our good friends at Provident Credit Union. With 21 Bay Area locations to serve you and your banking needs, visit providencecu.org. Now back to Rob Black and Your Money with your host, Rob Black, on the Bay Area's business leader, AM 1220 KDOW.
There's a lot of tools that can get you to retirement. You can earn more money. You can save more money. You can invest more money. And these can all work in your favor to get to retirement. On the way to retirement, you have to deal with things like taxes, insurance, cost of living with inflation, cost of colleges, cost of private schools, cost of your health care. One of the tools that you can use in retirement, or no, not in retirement, one of the tools that's out there, it's a tool, is a mortgage. And having proper knowledge of what's out there in product and having trust in people who can help supply you with these tools is a wise thing to do. It could be private equity, it could be private mortgages, it could be private debt, private real estate. There's so many tools out there. But today we're going to talk a little bit about mortgages and one of those life problems that have cropped up. Scott Thompson, Mr. Mortgageman, sent me an email yesterday and said, what do you think about how America's credit card debt crisis and talking about debt consolidation via the mortgage, cash options. A lot of Americans have saved a lot of money in their home. If they've owned the home 5 years, they're probably up. If they own the home 10 years, they're definitely up. 15 years, it's a big old piggy bank. Scott, how are you today?
Good morning.
Let's talk a little bit about people getting into debt issues, and it could be from medical bills. It could be from careless credit cards, not paying them off monthly. There's a lot of issues that Americans face on credit issues, and sometimes they need to consolidate debts. You have a mortgage debt, you have credit card debts, you have medical debts. They're all quote unquote debts, right? What do we need to know here?
Well, you use the word tools, and there's quite a few tools you have at your disposal if you're a homeowner and you're carrying a bunch of debt. And that story that you mentioned, made me think of a couple of cash out options that people have that they may or have not thought of, especially if they're holding a lot of credit card debt.
Give me some ideas of options.
Well, you can do a cash out refinance, but if you have one of those really low interest rates on your first, you probably don't want to change that 3% mortgage into the rates of today. So two pretty good options are what's known as a HELOC as well as a HE loan. And the two major differences between those two is a HELOC is adjustable, kind of like a checking account, and a HE loan has a fixed rate in which you get in one lump sum. So
a HELOC is a home equity line of credit, where a HE loan, it sounds more like you get a lump sum at a fixed rate.
That is correct.
Okay. And the HELOC has an adjustable rate, which in theory, with rates going down, the payment that you have to pay on whatever you take out of the home equity line of credit would get a little bit smaller. Not aggressively, because we're not talking about massive cuts in interest rates. We're talking about maybe 2 or 3.
Well, it really just depends. The HE loan has a fixed interest rate and has a predictable payment schedule. Whereas, like you mentioned, the HELOC is adjustable, so it could go up and down. You just have to figure out what meets your needs.
Yep.
I actually had a client just recently in which they had an investment property that they'd run a bunch of credit card debt, actually all the way up to $50,000. And they were looking for a way to consolidate it, and they had a 3% interest rate. And we looked at how they do their finances, and we elected to go with the HE loan route so they could pay off all that credit card debt in one lump sum.
Now,
why this was really helpful is their credit card. They were making monthly payments a little over $1,000 a month just on the credit card debt at a little over 24% interest rate.
That's crazy.
And the HELOC paid it off. Their interest rate was closer to 10, and it cut that monthly payment to under $500 a month. And that's significant money.
I hear you on that one. And what was the rate? Are you allowed to tell me what the rate was you got on the HELOC in this scenario? Because I've never used a HELOC. I've used a HELOC.
The rate on this loan was 10.19%.
Wow, that's that feels a little high to me, but I hear it. This isn't the 3 years ago. This isn't 2021, 2020. I used a HELOC 5, 6, 7 years ago because they were cheap. It was cheap money. It was almost too good to be true. And it was almost, you can't refuse borrowing money at that low cost. A lot of Americans use them for like college cost, for instance. Because this college cost of $20,000 per year, they get a HELOC, they take out $20,000, they pay it off over the next year, then they get to do another $20,000. So I see how the systems work. And is there anything else that we need to know on HELOCs and HELOCs, Scott?
Well, I think every situation is different. And so if that's having a conversation with me or another mortgage professional in which they can take a look at the different tools available to you, those are conversations that are worth having.
You can find Scott at mrmortgageman.com. That's mrmortgageman.com. You can email me, Rob at Rob Black Show, and I'll send you his information if you need it. He does mortgages. He does HELOCs. He does HELOANs. These are tools that they have costs associated with them, but they also offer that feature of, in this case, a pretty smart one. If you have $50,000 of credit card debt running at 24% annual percentage rate, a 10% loan against the equity in your home, you're going to save money. So things to think about, tools to use to properly get you to retirement and through retirement. That's what this show is all about. You can find him at mrmortgageman.com. That's mrmortgageman.com. Thanks, Scott. Moving on, taking a look at the markets, because this has been an interesting week. This has been the week where mega cap no longer worked. This has been a week where some cash registers were rung on NVIDIA, on Apple, on Microsoft, on you name the high growth stock that had the greatest first 7 months of the year, right? And some of that money went into small caps, some of it went into mid caps. But for the short term, are we going to see a 5% correction? We still have not seen that. Are we going to see a 10% correction? That would be normal, at least once a year. We're going to see a 20% correction equaling a bear market, which would be, in my opinion, a pause that refreshes. Speaking with analysts, NVIDIA is going to hit their quarter and it's going to be done nicely. There won't be a lot of questions with that. The question will be, what does 2025 and 2026 look like? When you have a high valuation, you've had a big run, you have to convince people to stick around as you have orders in the future. So that's coming up in about 3 weeks, the NVIDIA report. So to get there, you may have to wait a little bit. We are in earnings season. Tonight we get Netflix. Later on, we're going to start getting next week companies like Apple and Microsoft report their numbers, and we'll say, how are you doing? So I love earnings season. It's my favorite time of the year, to be quite honest with you. You get it 4 times, and I think it's all good. So one of the big questions I get is, I'm 55, I've got $2 million, I got $6,000 in expenses, can I retire? $6,000 a month is what, $72,000 a year? So you're looking for just under 4% returns on that $2 million. Sounds like you could. Now, right now, interest rates are higher than they have been recently. They're not ridiculously high, historically speaking. You could probably get 5% dividend yields, virtually no risk. So these years you can, but then you have to invest and prepare for inflation and personal inflation. What is personal inflation? It's not something I talk about a lot, but it is exactly what it sounds like. Where as you age, you may pay more for your lifestyle than the national averages. You may live in an area that hits a big spike. You rent an apartment in a popular city and you see housing costs increase faster than 2%, then suddenly that you're taking a little bit too much out. I do plan to rent some places in retirement. Something that I'm starting to really figure out, and it's one of the reasons I'm going tonight to the strategies for tax conscious portfolio, is I've started to figure out I want a home base and I want to live in some foreign lands. And some of those foreign lands could be inside of the United States, just new to me, you know? I've never lived in Tampa. I want to live in Tampa for maybe a month, maybe 6 months. Check out the food scene. Check out the water. Do it during non-hurricane season, you know? Definitely try to avoid the summer. The summer heat, no thank you. It's so funny, as I get older, I want the more temperate weather. So when I was younger, hot and exotic weather was fine. Now anything over 90 is like too hot. So the reason you retire early, like at 55, because that's what the question was about. Can I retire at 55 with $2 million and $6,000 in monthly expenses? Is so that you can enjoy life. The reason I do this show is so that you can enjoy retirement and enjoy life in there as well. Big event coming up tonight where you can learn about retirement issues. Thursday, July 18th, 6:30 to 8:30 at the Crown Plaza, Foster City. You can sign up for the event at robblackshow.com. That's robblackshow.com. Strategies for building a tax-conscious retirement portfolio with CFP Chad Burton. Tonight, 6:30 to 8:30. You have to sign up or I can't let you in. That's the rules with our compliance.